Hi, I'm Pete Shau. You may know me from the RTO Show Podcast, but today I'm doing something a little bit different. APRO and Wow Brands have launched a special project to bring the story of our industry to life like never before. They've asked me to sit down with some of the true legends of rent-to-own, capturing their stories, their impact, and their vision for the future. And now I get to share those conversations with you straight from the legends themselves. All of this leads to something groundbreaking, though. A new book, The Rent-to-Own Revolution, A Definitive History of Advocacy and Consumer Access, written by APRO CEO Charles Smitherman and Wow Brands CEO Brian Krast. The book explores the grassroots of RTO, the advocacy that has defined it, and the future that we're building together. Here's where you come in. We're giving away free copies once the book is released. Just head over to the RTORevolution.com and sign up for a chance to receive a copy in early 2026. Don't miss the chance to be among the first to hold this piece of RTO history. That's RTORevolution.com. Check it out and become a part of RTO history. Hello and welcome to the RTO Show. I'm your host, Pete Shau, and today we have another one on the Legend Series. Listen, guys, I've been trying to nail this one down for a while. Mr. David. David is a hard man to get a hold of. He is busy. He's got Full-O-Pep going on in Indiana. Actually, American Rentals is probably what you would know it better as, right? So, David, part of the APRO, listen, he's part of the backbone of APRO. He is part of the backbone of Full-O-Pep. He has got the family of legend. I mean, every time I see these guys, they are just all enjoying it and having a good time. But we're going to go back. We're going to go back a little bit and kind of discuss with Mr. David how it all started, where it went, the things that he was able to accomplish, some of the things that he had to get through to get those accomplishments, and find out where we're going a little bit in the future. Mr. David, how are you doing today? How's everything going?
Doing great.
You're down in sunny Florida, right?
Sunny Florida. Excited about the game tonight.
Cold Florida. Yeah.
Cold Florida, yeah.
So how much do you think Indiana's going to win by?
10.
10. All right. So by the time this comes out, we're going to be able to look back at that game and say who won. So, Mr. David, how are you doing? Like right now, I see 1981, Bloomington, Indiana. How did this all go down? But I want to know first off, and this is a trick question for some people. What did you do as a child? What did you have a hobby?
Working. I think I started.
Really?
We had a restaurant. We had a 200-acre truck farm, raised produce. We had about 1 million Christmas trees planted that my father took care of.
Okay.
We had a feed and tackle store and a shell station. So,
wow.
I, in the spring, had to plow when I was of age. I think I learned to drive a truck when I was 6. I didn't know the gears. It was, it's whatever took you forward,
Wow.
I used to ride with my grandfather to Bloomington. It's about 20 miles, and he'd always bring a pillow with him. And I was coming back. He said, "I'm tired. You drive home." And I drove home every time. Wow. And one night we stopped at this root beer stand right in Nashville, and some of my callers coming out. He told me go ahead and drive home. And right at the top of this real steep hill, I got a red light come on, and guy comes up and he said, "Let me see your driver's license." And I said, "Don't have it." So I got the experience in that. And fast forward, I think I was 14 when I met Jim Hammond, who bought Full-O-Pep. And he ended up dating my sister for years. His family moved to Arizona, and he wanted to graduate from Brown County High School. So he came back, and we were actually roommates for about a year and a half. So we've known each other probably 60 some years, and have been great friends and working companions for all that time. And so I was living I did the Christmas trees. We shipped 150,000 Christmas trees every year.
Wow.
And
150,000 trees.
150,000, yeah. So it was, you're in a time restraint. So, when we get done, we'd load up everything, drive to Florida. We had 35 locations in Florida, and I would set up the lots on the Western Tampa, Bradenton, Sarasota, all those towns that Montgomery wards were in at that time. I would set up the lots. And then after Christmas, I would stay in Florida. My dad said, either go back to India. Well, a few years I went back because I was in flight school at Vincennes University learning to be a commercial pilot.
Oh, wow.
And so,
David, wait a minute. Did you even have a youth? You were working since like you were years old. I mean, you were like 6 years old. He's driving the truck. He's putting up like, did you, so usually the reason I ask that question is because the entrepreneurs that I see at your level, they have started early in the game. So usually it's either they had a paper route, they were selling bubble gum. I mean, I know if you look at some of the guys in the big leagues, right? You got Charlie Munger, you got all the rest of the guys. Warren Buffett started selling candy when he was younger, and then he would put the pinball machines in the candy. And like, it was something inherent in them that they started early. Like, I was going to be an entrepreneur early. I don't know if any of them drove or sold as many trees as you did at that age. I can see why you are doing such a good job right now. But it's that spirit that starts off early. I mean, it just really kind of, it gets instilled early, and then before you know it, you take that and you keep on going. So that's an amazing.
My grandfather had a little gift shop. I worked out there, and I had to make change and count back money and stuff, probably at 6 or 7. So seemed like, most of my life, even during sports, I'd go out for basketball, but I'd have to quit the team because I had to do Christmas trees.
Oh, wow.
And in the spring, I would run track and things, but then I'd have to not go to practice because I had to go out and plow. So,
wow.
And
wow. So then what happens? 1981 rolls around, Bloomington, Indiana. Where was the start? Was that the start of Full-O-Pep, and how?
1980s, when Jim bought Full-O-Pep was in 1980. It was an appliance store, failing appliance store. And in Indianapolis, there was a distributor called ADI, and they distributed RCA, Whirlpool, and Linton microwaves. And they were looking for somebody to take over the store and sell it to. And he'd worked for Airway, who was bought out by Target. And he didn't want to move to Minneapolis. So he started looking around, and a friend of his that worked with him at Airway worked at ADI and said they're looking for somebody to buy this appliance store. So he ended up buying it. And Lou Randall had collected a lot of information on rental stores too. He opened rental stores back in the 80s, late 80s and 90s, and had articles from that. So he talked to Jim, and he loaned him the money to open it. And I was spending the winter in Florida, and in 1978, I was going to buy a new car, and my sister was in a lot in Melbourne, and there was a Datsun dealership at the time, Nissan now, and I bought a 280Z. I had a 240Z. I was buying a new 280Z.
Oh, I love those things.
And I went over the next week after New Year's to see if the financing went through and to pick it up, and a cat got in the car and killed an animal, and there's fur all over it. So I was not very happy, and I drove back. I was staying in Kissimmee, and I drove back to where I was staying, and I went by this Ford dealership, and they had the exact car on the lot. I made a U-turn and went back. The car was unlocked. It was owned by a pilot, and so I ended up getting buying the car and getting a job there. The guy asked me if I was interested in working. I said, no, never considered selling cars, but I went back to the room and thought about it, and my grandfather owned a Ford dealership from 1914 to 1939. Oh, wow. And I thought, with that history, maybe I'd go to work at a Ford dealership. So I went there. So I worked there from 78, 79, and then I left. My roommate opened a Fat Boys Barbecue in Sebring, Florida. And he came home one weekend. I stayed in his house in Orlando, and he stayed in my motorhome in Sebring, which I was actually a fifth wheel. And came home and said, David's coming to manage it for me. And I am. So I ended up going managing. Every year when I have the pig roast, that's where that came from, was working in the barbecue restaurant for about 6 months.
Well, I definitely have some questions about that, because I did see that you had a signature sauce that I wanted to talk to you about.
So after that, I left, and I went back to Indiana, went back to work for my dad. And I went back to Florida that winter with the Christmas tree. And after Christmas, I stopped by this Nissan dealership. And the sales manager that had run the other sales manager off that I liked at that dealership, now was fired, and he was working here, and he needed help. And I told him I would help him out if the owners let him know that I was only going to be there till May. And he called me. I was in Key West, and said, you're good to go. I went, and I started making so much money. I wasn't sure I wanted to leave. I was making like $6,000 a month back in the early 80s. Wow. But then they promoted me sales manager, and my pay went because they wouldn't let me hire anybody. I worked at a different dealership. So I went to Indiana that summer and I talked to Jim and I said, you need a partner. And he said, no, I got about 50 people want to be a partner, but if you want to come back, we'll open a store together. And that time it was just a retail store. So I went back and thought about it and I said, I don't want to be in the car business. And it's an opportunity to do something that I'm not familiar with. Christmas trees, farm, restaurant stuff, but never appliances.
Right.
But so I went to work, and back before computers, we had the cards, we had to post everything, and I learned to sell. I went on delivery. I remember a guy, I went out on delivery, and the guy says, where are you from? I haven't seen you before. And I said, well, I moved from Orlando back here. And he said, you moved to Bloomington from Orlando? So anyway, I learned that business. So that following, I came back in October of 81, and I forgot how bad the winters were. It was drizzling rain and 53 degrees. And I went, oh, no, I forgot about that because I'd spent all the winters in Florida. Yeah. So in November, Jim Halen, Dennis Adams, and I drove up to Kalamazoo, Michigan. And Bud Green was going around the country giving seminars on the rent-own business. And we spent the whole day there, and we left, gave him a $100 bill, and he gave us a little packet with an agreement and a pickup order and where you kept track of your inventory in and out, that type of thing. And went back in the retail store and opened a little department. It was about probably 500 square feet, if that. Had washer, dryer, refrigerator, console TV, portable TV, a CD player, and that was it. And then the salespeople at the sales store didn't like that, so we eventually moved it out into a little A-frame building north of town. And Jim asked me if I still want to do a retail store, and I said, no, want to do a rental store. So every week I drove to Columbus to look for a location, week after week. And finally, I think it was in May, the shopping center I wanted to go to had an empty spot. I had an appliance dealer, and he thought I was competition, which I wouldn't have been. So I noticed one day somebody was moving in there, so I went and asked them where they'd moved from, and they told me, and that's where I ended up finding a store. And so Dennis had the A-frame, I had the store in Columbus, and every year from that time, we each opened 2 stores a year, rental stores in different communities.
We're talking about the Dennis Adams that I see around in every single one. He's been doing this for that long?
Yeah, he was in high school when he worked at the store before Jim bought it, working in service. And when Jim took it over, he made the parts manager for the appliance store. Wow. So he's been here 40 some 5 years or something.
Dennis, you are longevity in form and physical form. I salute you, sir. Wow, he's been doing it since the beginning. That is amazing. Yeah. I see him everywhere, and I'm like, man, as long as I've been doing it, he has been a solid staple around in every single convention there is.
Yeah, I got him involved in APRO and got him on the board, and get elected.
Now I see now from the beginnings to 4 states. We have the Dennis Adams working for David here. You guys have done an amazing role. Can you talk to me a little bit? Because I did see some other stuff in here. There was some growth with, and I'm trying to say this right. Is it Rapers Rent to Own and PDQ Rentals?
PDQ, Rapers, Giant, Alice, I can't think of her name now, in Evansville area. We bought 3 stores from her. She had pawn shops and rental stores. And then later we bought Gary McDougall. He had stores in Tennessee. He called me and said, I want to sell my stores, and we bought those stores. He had me go visiting the stores, and he told them I was an insurance salesman. And somebody saw me in one of the APRO magazines, sent pictures around all the other stores, so they knew who I was. Stuff, but that's how we grew probably 14 to 16 stores, just opening stores. And at that time, we went computerized. We went on mainframes, those great big monster units.
When was that? What year was that you guys got the 85 when you got the big computers? So let me ask you a question. It's 85. You got the big computers. When did you get away from the big computers and actually get to the smaller desktops? How long was it?
About 5 years. About 5 years. That's how Ralph came, Ralph Boucher. That's how he came to work for us. He was looking for a job. Really? And we needed somebody to do the backup on the big reel-to-reels. So he came in at night, and he was chain smoker at the time, and you come in, there'd be this heaping ashtray full of cigarette butts. But he ran the backup every night for us out of those.
I've got to ask, because I've always been curious, what happened to those big computers after you transitioned into the small computers? It's not like, like nowadays you have a laptop, you get rid of it, you can recycle it. Those things were like the size of people. Like, what did you do with those things?
It was two of them were as big as a house, almost. You had to keep it air conditioned too. You had to keep it like 70 degrees and all that. We had in Texas, there was a guy that's still running mainframes, and once we got off of him, he wanted to buy them, and we packed them up and shipped them to him. So we actually got money out of them instead of an anchor.
You guys got lucky. They got fancy. They got rid of them. Like, I don't know what I would do with something like that. I mean, that's crazy. So,
but Les Felcher was, who we went with, RSS. That's kind of the start of that. And we also had video. The reason we went with RSS was we had videos. We still had the sales store, and we had rental. And High Touch at the time was just a rental system, which I liked, but it didn't handle movies, didn't handle the retail. So that's how we end up, and we've stuck with them ever since.
Hey everyone, it's Pete Shau here from the RTO Show Podcast, and I want to tell you about a company that's making a real difference in the rent-to-own space, Wow Brands. I've seen firsthand how they approach marketing, and let me tell you, it's not just about ads. Wow Brands builds complete digital ecosystems designed specifically for the rent-to-own industry. Their e-commerce and lead generation strategies are built to bring in qualified leads. And did I mention that they are actively working with the rent-to-own industry while also being members of APRO and TRIB? Listen, these folks are passionate problem solvers. They don't just slap something together. They design, build, and scale the kind of digital retail tools your business needs and your customers actually want. So if you're serious about growing, reach out to Wow Brands at wowbrands.com. I trust them, and I think you will too. We're going through to the 80s. How did you, you grow 14 to 16 stores organically. How were you able to decide, okay, I'm going to buy these stores and I'm going to, get an acquisition of these other locations? What makes a good acquisition? How do you know when you're looking at somebody else's business and going, I'm going to get 3 stores here, 2 stores here, or whatever the case is? How do you know that it's going to transition to the culture that you have, to the way that you do things? What makes it a good buy?
I'll back up a little bit. Jim retired when he was 40. He never had anybody in his family live to be over 57, his mom's side or the family side. So he asked me to come over to Columbus. Dennis had a Full-O-Pep Rentals, and I had American Rentals. So we basically had 2 different companies running.
Oh, okay.
And he asked me to come over. I had no idea what he wanted to talk to me about. And he said, I want you to take over the company. Told me the story about his family. Said, I want to travel and have a good time. And I think he played golf every day for a year in that time period. And he stayed with me 2 weeks, and he took off for a year. And so I was a little frightened about the situation, but we had 12 stores at that time, and then continued growing. And I think the first acquisition we did was Casey's in Evansville and Henderson and Owensboro. She just wanted to get rid of the stores. They were kind of getting in trouble. They were pawning guns in Evansville, and they were sending them to Kentucky and grinding the serial number off and selling them. So, they were starting, I think, to get into some trouble. So we bought those stores. And then I think the next acquisition we had was Giant. They were in the northern part of the state. Mike Doty and his dad and 2 sons, and his dad ran the stores. And he also worked at ADI when Jim bought the sales store. So they knew each other pretty well. So those were all, they didn't know anything about selling. They didn't know anything buying. The dad refused to loan any more money to operate, and they wanted to get rid of them. Same thing with Casey. She just really wanted to liquidate those, and they stayed in the pawn shop business. As we went on with, I think after that was probably Gary McDougall. And, I was on the board with Gary for a couple of years, and we had a really good working relationship. We just talked back and forth to something that was good for him, it was good for me, and felt like we'd both end up on the good end of it. And then I think it was his brother-in-law owned a store also in Athens, and we bought that also. Then down the road, we bought PDQ, which he used to work for us. His Jim and Dana's dads and Jim worked together at Airway. So that's how they knew each other. And he came to work for us, left us and opened his own rental stores.
How do you stretch the leadership? How do you, when you're acquiring all these different companies from a lot of different areas, it's not just, a lot from one spot. You're getting a few here and a few there from different reasons and different acquisitions for whatever the case, whether I'm trying to liquidate, whether I'm getting out of the business, whether I want to travel the world. Like, once you receive those stores in and their employees and stuff, how do you acclimate them to the way you did things? How do you acclimate them to the success-driven way that you have been?
We would usually send a team of people in there. We had our auditors who would go to the store to go through the accounts and things. And we would always send somebody to work with those stores that worked for us. And they seemed to really match, we were lucky enough to pick out personalities that really mashed up really well. And if they need anything, they didn't call me, they called them if they had a problem. So that seemed to always work out pretty well of trying to get a team down there. If you had 3 stores, you'd send 3 people, plus the auditors and myself and the district manager. And then they would keep in touch with that person. And if they got any questions, they would stay there with them for a few weeks with them and help them learn the computer system if it was different, kind of what our culture was. And I think that's the tough part. I think we've built a pretty good culture in our company. We have a lot of long-term employees, and it's tough to do, but it's something that's made it very workable for us by having those connections with people.
I can only imagine. So starting out in Indiana, are you a part of the Indiana Rental Dealers Association?
I was president of the Indiana Rental Dealers for 15 years. And Dennis and I, there was Sam Choate used to travel around the country opening states, get the laws passed. And Lauren Neff would work with him. And Dennis and I both went to Indianapolis on several occasions to testify in front of the House and the Senate to get the bill passed. And once we got it passed, I was just thinking that we had Harry Krause, when we were trying to get that done, worked for Option 3, said, I want to be president of the Indiana Rental Dealers. I said, fine with me. So, everybody okayed it and kind of had a president. And we got the law passed, and he called me up and said, I don't want to be president anymore. I'm done. So that was
I'm good. I did it. I'm good.
I was good. He didn't even come and testify or anything. He just wanted to be president.
Oh, really?
So a couple of years went by, and Dick Growell, had stores in Indiana, Mr. Steve's, and he became the APRO president. And that's how I got involved, and he talked me into joining the APRO board. So that's the first year I got on the APRO board.
If you could look back and see, what do you think was one of the hardest obstacles you had to overcome in getting the laws passed in Indiana?
It wasn't that difficult, just trying to get people to understand what we did, and that the keep where the customers could return at any time without any penalties. And the DFI oversees us. So, you had an agency, unlike a lot of states that are out there, that actually oversees us. And I think Ed always kept track of it. I think we had 16 changes in our laws over the years. But they were usually something that we negotiated back and forth with them and were able to work it out. So, when I would go from state to state, different state, we would follow the same laws as Indiana because it was pretty strict in Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, wherever we went.
Yeah. I mean, I just think back and, all the RDAs that were formed during those, mid 80s, late 80s, early 90s times that everybody was trying to get those laws passed in their states. And there were so many people going around from different states, whether it be from APRO. And I know Rent Center had a group that were going around. I know the Indiana people, you guys were involved in it. I know that there was a lot of other legends that were very present in the forming of, the laws in their state. So it's not shocking to know that you guys were able to do the same. I do have a question though. Were you one of the reasons why we ended up in couple at RTO World a couple years ago? Was it because you guys were there? You kind of
twice.
He said, no, Pete, it's
And
not
14,
once.
and
It was
14,
twice.
yeah, twice. Yeah, twice.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I loved it. I actually loved going out there. I really did enjoy that. I will say that I had a really good time in Indiana.
Lots of people made comments about we never realized Indiana and Indianapolis was that nice. We loved it. And then we went
It was
back
absolutely
a couple
beautiful.
of years ago.
I mean, yeah, well, the history too. That's really what caught me, because we ended up walking around to see a lot of the history and stuff, some of the stuff that was in the state. But, I really enjoyed it. I got to say, one of the most beautiful places that I have been to so far yet. But there's some other good places. I don't know. They went to Tampa one time, and I enjoyed that one too. So I'm not going to lie.
But we had, after I joined APRO, there really wasn't any association other than we called it Indiana Rental Dealers. And after I joined APRO, I saw the need to do something to teach people in the state. There was Mr. Steve's, Rarix, there was a lot of Color Times, there was some Rent-A-Centers, PDQ, different people. So we'd have usually, trying to think what date it was, July, August, we'd have a show in Indianapolis. And the last time, I think the second and last time we did it, there was over 100 vendors there. But all the dealers and the store managers come in, and to them it was like going to APRO. They got to party, they got to learn stuff, they get to see product, and all that. So I did that for 15 years, and Tammy Gregory was the helped out doing those shows for me. And the last year next to the last year we did it, we went in to sign the agreement, and we were going to be indebted for about $30,000. And signed the paperwork, and 2 weeks later she said, "I couldn't tell you, but we sold out the Rent-A-Center." I said, "You could have told me to wait before we signed the paperwork."
Right.
So
You could have waited.
The next year, we had the show, and the only people who showed up was us, because there wasn't anybody left in the state other than us and one other small dealer. And the vendors liked it so well that they got to spend time with our managers. We moved the show to Brown County, and that's how that show continued going for the last 15 years also. They come.
Wow.
And we set up everything. We just invite them. We set up everything on our own. We buy the product, bring it in. They don't have to tear it down. We tear it down. All they have to do is show up, talk to our store managers, and tell them why they should carry that product. So it's been very successful.
So is that the same expo that you have during the, you have that, and then
the bourbon
you also do a company, you do a company-wide picnic, right?
That's it. That's the whole thing. That's part of that,
right?
Yes. So we have an vendor show in the morning till the afternoon, and we play golf on Friday. Then Saturday we have the vendor show, and in the afternoon we have the pig roast and all the games and stuff. Family all come and bring their kids and things like that.
I'm seeing here like 400 is approximately 400 employees and family members that show up to this.
Well, we've got 300 and some employees, so when they bring their family and their kids and everything, there's 400 or 500 people.
It's almost double that then. I mean,
usually about.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, and is it recently? It's been about almost 20 years since that you've done this now? Is it the 20th anniversary that you've had?
Yes. So, like I said, we did in Indianapolis first for 15 years, and then went on with this. So,
wow, that's amazing.
I always liked doing promoting. When I lived in Florida, my roommate and I put on a concert at the Tupperware Auditorium. And when I was growing up, every year before the Christmas tree season started, when you start cutting and baling, I'd be gone. I'd always have a party. And first year we had about 150 people. Second year we had 300 people. Next year we had 1,500 people. Next year we had 5,000 people.
Ooh. Wow.
For a 3-day, for Friday night, Saturday night, and they'd leave on Sunday. That was just started out to say goodbye to my friends that I wouldn't see them till the next spring, because I, would do the Christmas trees 18 hours a day and then go to Florida and in the winter. So.
Wow, that's amazing. So in making all that, what's your goal when you do something like that? I mean, what do you want to take out of it? What do you want your employees to take out of it? When you have these big expos and you have all these people come in, whether it be GMs to see product, whether it be their family to let go a little bit and just have fun, what's your ultimate goal, your takeaway from that when you're doing things like that for your employees and for your company?
Just show them our appreciation of the hard work they do and educate them at the same time. The store managers come in and district managers, and they learn about the products. And every year we go to the furniture markets and we pick out new products and we try to bring it to the show so they got a chance to see it, and then they rate it. We've got a little app on the phone, and they rate it good, bad, and different. And if they don't like it, we don't buy it.
Oh, wow. So is this like High Point?
Yeah, we got a High Point. We got a High Point. Well, I'm going, going to the Vegas market here next week.
I was just going to say, do you do Vegas and North Carolina?
Yes.
You do both? Okay. All right. I do see that. Man. I like that idea.
I do TRIB Show, Meeting the Minds. I do APRO. I do Nationwide twice. I do Vegas once and the High Point twice. And I love it. I might see you at a Nationwide too, because I know that there's going to be one down here. Oh God, I can't remember what month it is, but it's going to be in Florida. I think Fort Lauderdale. So I want to go down there and check it out. So I might see you there. That's going to be awesome. I see David over there at the furniture thing. So as you're doing this, you're building this culture. You have the expo. You started the RDAs, or you're a part of the RDAs. You've got kind of Full-O-Pep in full swing. Where did you have time to have the bar, the bourbon bar? What is it, Dave and Mike's Bourbon Bar? It's not mine.
Where'd that come from?
David Powell and Mike Gooden.
Oh, okay. So I was curious about that, because I did see the David D2 barbecue sauce. Is that a private label?
Yes. I just make it. I make it and give it away. My son wanted me to start making it and selling it, but he wanted me to make it. And I said, you make it and you can sell it, but I'm not going to make it for you. I'll give you the recipes. But besides that party in the summertime, we have a Christmas party also. And same thing, that they bring we usually have it the third week of November, just the weekend before Thanksgiving. And we give the kids presents, and sometimes it may be the only presents they got. And, Santa's there, and we have a band and feed them and give gifts out, and have a casino, where they can win tickets for drawings we give about 150 prizes away. And we draw the tickets and stuff. So just that kind of culture you want to have, that's friendly. You appreciate your employees, and hopefully they'll stay for a long time working for you and enjoy working for you, most importantly.
Dennis, we're talking to you directly. We're talking to Dennis. Dennis, we're talking to you directly. This is about you. So talk to me about David and Mike's Bourbon Bar. How did that, I apologize, because the name David, I just assumed that it was you, but then now that I'm reading my notes, yes, it does say David Powell and Mike Goodwin. Where did that come from?
Dennis Shields and Marty Obel and some other people. I've got this, I think it's an 18-passenger bus. And first I had a motorhome. We were talking about it going on the Bourbon Trail. So I sold it and then bought this bus, and we take the bus down. There's about 8 of us, and spend 2 or 3 days going around visiting different bourbon manufacturers, distilleries. And I just started collecting bottles. And then David Powell, as he'd be out auditing the stores, he'd go to the liquor stores and find some bourbon that was reasonably priced. And so I think last year we had 30 some bottles of bourbon. The year before we had 30 some. Started out with about 10 bottles, I think. I've had people donate bottles to it also.
So I got to ask, because I am actually from Highlands County. So when you said Sebring, you're talking about home territory. So do you still have that restaurant there?
No, my roommate, I stayed with him about 6 months, and it's a funny story about that. I can't tell you on here, but
that's for off the air.
I decided it was time to get out of town. We roomed together for several years. He worked at the same dealership that I did, and decided to go down to Sebring, and was it Blackman Ford Lincoln Mercury? I don't know if it's still there. That's what he went to work for.
No, it changed names too. I can't think of the name that it changed to. It's the dealership is still there, but the name has changed.
Yeah. But anyway, he went to work for them, and that's why he decided he somehow wanted this Fat Boys barbecue. And I had no intention of going down there, but that's kind of how the barbecue started too, was from that experience I had. Also, selling cars. It comes in handy buying cars, not just selling cars too. When I buy cars, I get the black books, and I know what the cost the dealers buy it for and all that. So just try to keep up on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think right now Alan J kind of owns the entire Florida market as far as Highlands County concerned. He has everything. But so as you're doing all of this, as you're running Full-O-Pep, as you're you're still the president, right? You're the
Yes.
current sitting president of Full-O-Pep. So you're doing all this. Let's talk about the charitable involvement that you have, that you guys have right now. We have, I don't know if it's CASA or if it's Casa for Children. I would imagine it's Casa for Children. So how did that work? It looks like you have some support going on right now in Monroe County, sponsorship for the Casablanca Gala. Like talk to me about that. How is that going?
Okay, well, there's the Children's American Network. I started back sending donations to them because we had a lot of employees and a lot of people who were renting from us had their kids that had some physical problem that they needed to go to Riley. It's specialized in children's health. And so I started donating that. And then, and we still do that since back in the mid 80s. And then CASA is child services where they take kids out of homes where they're not being treated well or beaten or whatever. And the CASA handles them and they find a home to place them in. Ralph Boucher, his wife, was the director of that. And that's how we got involved in that. Donating money every year. We give him somewhere around $5,000 to $7,000. This year we're Children's America, we're raise about $10,000. And then also I've been involved in the Boys and Girls Club. Donate to them also.
So how many, if you were to guess, how many situations or how many clubs or how many affiliations do you charitably give to every year?
Those three primarily.
Those three?
Yeah. Yeah. One year we took, I don't know if you've been to our store, seen our store in Wilmington. It's 2-story. It's got a mezzanine upstairs, and we emptied the furniture. We emptied the furniture out. And for 3 years in a row, I had what they called a beach bash. And we had bands. We had a stage set up and had bar and food and all that for the Boys and Girls Club. And,
wow.
And then
Anthony, what are we doing? We need to go to Indiana, man. We need to go see what's going on up there, man.
Then one year I danced, they had a local dancing with celebrities, and I danced for the Boys and Girls Club and managed to raise $49,000 for them, and won the dance contest. There was, I think, eight different charity organizations that they had dancing, so I've got my big globe trophy there.
You got to check this out. He sells trees. He's driving at 6. He's got a 50-store and he wins dancing contests. What? I feel like I'm not doing enough, Anthony, right? I feel like I'm not doing enough with my life right now.
Is there a video of that? I haven't seen it.
That's why I'm down here right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, I'm just telling you, man, that's amazing. So on top of all of those wins, right now we're talking about David being on top of all these wins. You're an active APRO board member. You were a second vice president, or are you still the second vice president?
No, I'm not on the board anymore. I'm with TRIB
right?
now. But I was on there. I totaled up all the presidents that I served under, and there was 18.
Under 18, and they usually have like a 2-year run, right? Don't they on average have a 2-year run?
They were
holy cow.
Ernie was 1 year. I think Lynn Leach was 1 year. Somebody else was 1 year. Must have been 2 years. And then I ran in 14 for 2 years. We had a convention in New Orleans, and then that's when we went to Indianapolis. And then when Chris Cale was president, into his second term, he was 2 years, and he was going the second. He said, I've got things going on, I don't want to go. So I took over for him then. So I was president the second time, and we went back to Indiana.
So let me ask you a question. How APRO is very important to me on what they do and what they mean for the industry and how everything is going. What does APRO mean to you, and how have they been able to help with your situation as far as what you've gone through, and how have you been able to help APRO as far as the laws and being the watchdog of kind of what's going on in the legal systems in DC and all that? How important is APRO to you?
Well, that's why, back in 91, I decided to do the rental show in Indianapolis, and it wasn't just to have training was important and have product, but it was also to raise enough money. We've had a lobbyist since 1987 that we've kept on payroll, and paying for that was important to me, and keeping there to protect us and anything else that should come up. and building a fund that if there was any other states we were in, we could fund that also, like Kentucky or Tennessee. But, starting on the board from Dick Grau, that was, I had still pretty green in the business. I go to the show. You have to give a 15-minute presentation about why you're there, why you want to be on the board, all this. Talk about being scary. And I didn't know.
I don't know if I believe that. The guy who's winning the dance contest is worried about the 15. I don't know about that, David.
Well, that was early. But anyway, they didn't have any pins for anybody to fill out their application. So I didn't know how to get elected or anything. It was my first time running anything. So I went around handing business cards and giving them a pencil.
That's probably the best way to get it done. Right? If you don't know anybody else's name, just remember mine. I gave you the chance to fill this out. So can you name a time where, APRO was really able to help you and you help APRO get through a difficult legal legislation situation?
Oh, yeah. When I was president of rental dealers, and that was 94, I believe, Terry Mullins at Rarick's had an auditor came in and he called me up and he said, they've come into my store. They say we're a retail sale, not rental. And they're pretty adamant they want to put us out of business. And so I drove up to Fort Wayne, their stores in Fort Wayne. He had agreements all over furniture in the back room that they were looking at. I mean, just laying on top, the seats of sofas, the backs of the sofas, washers and dryers, anything he could lay out. Because I don't think he was he said it had to be computer, but they wanted to see all the agreements. And their decision was that it was a retail sale. There was nothing rental. There was nothing rent-to-own about it. And being involved in APRO, I called Bill Keese, and I said, I think this is pretty important. And, when I got on board, there was Dick Grau, and he was a year, and then Ted Wilson was on there. And they hired Kevin Quinn, or got Kevin Quinn to run for the board. I think he was the first board member he got elected to be president. And he did a fantastic job maneuvering through that, going to Washington and working to get that overturned. And that was history. But that was a long, hard fight. Bill was out there quite a bit. Ed was out there a lot. And Kevin was out there a lot. But, every year that I've been on the board, whoever the president was, I felt like they were the right person for the right time.
I can tell you I'm a big Kevin Quinn fan. When I finally got a chance to talk to him, because it was the first time that I talked to him being the Legend Series, and I was able to actually sit down and have a conversation with him. Huge in Kevin Quinn fan. He just he just got me. He got me the way he kind of embodied what he did. And, he was very, very humble person, very straightforward, like just tells you how he feels. You can see the emotion come out of him. He really loved what he did. I really enjoyed talking with Kevin.
When I first got on the board, the first year it was just, Dick Grau, and we went to Washington, D.C., and I got on. Second year, we went to a board meeting, and it was Ted Wilson. And I've never had so much screaming and yelling and pounding on the desk and everything. And I'm like, man, what did I get myself into, Kevin was kind of the same way.
They were passionate people.
Very passionate
people.
Well, they drank till 3 a.m, and then they came in the board meeting at 8 o'clock too.
Sometimes I see it now, and I'm like, I have no idea how they do that. That is pretty wild.
And it was kind of the same way with Kevin, but he, like I said, he was really vocal and really maneuvered himself well. And the APRO, Bill Keese, the whole APRO staff, really worked with that goal of getting that done. And that was a huge time in the history of this industry that it paid off. And, I did everything I could at that time to make sure that happened. And, when Terry called me up, I just thought, well, maybe it's something that's going to pass. As it went along, I saw something that was going to be not just a local issue. It was turning into a national issue. They were going out other states and trying to convince them that it was a retail sale.
Well, then I've got to say thank you for bringing that subject up and putting a stop to it, because Lord knows I wouldn't be here. That was before I started, so I wouldn't even be here in the industry if that wasn't the case.
So like I said, all the presidents I worked for, it seemed to be the right time, after Kevin, no, I think it was before Kevin, it was Wayne Chambers, and he was probably one of the best structured person in running an association and having meetings. And I liked what he did because he would have all your committees go out decide on a budget, what they want to do, and come up with a budget. And then we go back together and say, nope, we only got half that amount of money. No, we only have a quarter of that money, and distribute the money we had to spend rather than just deciding we're going to spend this amount here or wherever,
Right.
So that's what he did. Then Kevin came in, and then it was, I think it was, Bill White. I have a funny story about Bill White. Bill White was president, and a couple of years into his presidency, he was going to sell his company, Action, I think it was, to Wayne Huizenga. So he came to a board meeting, and he said, I can get Wayne Huizenga to come to our show for nothing and speak. And everybody, yes, go for it. So we went for it, and he spoke, and it was great. He gave Bill a Miami's Dolphin helmet, and
Oh, wow.
Bill had a parade around the thing, the ring we were in. And about a month later, Bill Keys called and said, we've got a problem. Wayne Huizenga was free, but his pilot and his airplane and his hotel room was $53,000.
That's how you get them, Anthony. I'm free. I'm free. These guys ain't free, but I'm free. Oh my God, it's funny.
Yeah. So that was almost a crisis in itself at the time. But luckily,
I believe it. I believe it because $53,000 then that's not cheap. But let me ask you a question. I mean, you've been doing this a long time. You've had some pretty stout beginnings. I mean, you've been working since the day that you've been out. You just always put a lot of hard work into it. Now that you're here, and now that you've created all these great things, you give to these charities, you show your employees how much you care. I mean, Dennis, I'm telling you, Dennis, you are the one. He's been around since the beginning. I mean, you have to say that you have somebody working for you over 40 plus years is amazing. Where do you think rent to own is going now? How do you think it's going, and where do you think it's going? Like, what state do you think it is in right now? And what do you see in the future of rent to own?
I see the need. There being probably more need than there is now. I don't like the fact that people aren't coming in the store as much as they used to. But, we're doing a lot more online business, so I think that business. But I really encourage the people, and it's not mandatory, but to get the customer come in the store and actually touch it, feel it before we take it out. But we still got some customers pretty adamant to just bring it out. So I think a lot of it is going in that direction. But we still work pretty hard to try to get people to come in to the store, whether it's cookouts or special occasion. We have a race contest, and they come in and we feed them and give away some prizes and things like that. But I think the RTO business is pretty bright as long as it's legislative and everybody doesn't do something stupid to get us in trouble. And, it's been a long time. A lot of people don't realize all of the issues we went through over the 80s, late 80s and 90s, getting states signed up and the tax issue. And there's been several other issues come up that they've been able to fight off. And I don't think a lot of people in the business now understand what everybody had to go through. It wasn't just me. It was the board, Bill Keys, his whole staff. He probably had the best staff you could have working in those time periods. Shelley, Martinique, and Cindy, and Talicia's still there. She was ready to leave a couple of years ago and finally decided to stay. And I think that was the best thing that could have happened to Charles for her staying.
I agree. But so you have a positive outlook. I mean, as long as we kind of hold steadfast, you think that we have a positive outlook. What do you think about what's going on with the legislation in New York right now and a couple of things that they're fighting over there? Do you think that that's something that we're going to be able to kind of make way through, or you think there's still a fight to be had?
I haven't kept up that much on what's going on in that state. I'm, not on the APRO board now, but, it's usually somebody. We had this similar situation years ago. There was an assistant attorney general moved to Kentucky and became the attorney general, was going to put the rent down out of business, and dealers got together and pooled some money and got it all turned around. I think it's getting the right people down there to talk to them and understanding our business, that we're not ripping people off. They don't have to keep it. They don't have to. I mean, they can. Since the very beginning of us starting, we went to visit Bud Green. He told us at that time every customer's going to have 3 crisis periods of, family sick, cars broke down, something's going on in their life, and we've pretty well held steadfast. And I think there's some dealers out there that don't quite give him the leniency as they should, because a lot of these people weren't able to have credit, or they had credit and ruined their credit. And our company policy, we want people to own the product, not just rent it and give it back to us. We want them to have good product. I remember Dick Grell told me one time, he said, I want to have the least expensive stuff I can, and I want the 25% nobody else wants of rental customers. And when their sofa's broke, they'll need another one. And I went, that's not how I want to run business. So I want my business to be this big circle. They rent a sofa, they pay that off, and get a TV, and they get a washer and dryer, and they get a refrigerator, and they get all these things. Then they get back, maybe 5 years down the road, they may need another sofa now, and they can start over again. And we've got generations of people that have come back to us. So I think that kind of service that we've offered, and most of the dealers that I know offer, is going to bring people in the store that continue those generational things, bringing customers back. And even whether they're doing it online, there's probably some time where they need to come to the store, or they want to come to the store just to, they're in town. We work awfully hard trying to get the customer to if they want to keep it, have it. We've had some customers that'll pay it all the way off and give it back to us to say, we can't own it. We can just rent it and give it back to you and things. But most of the time, I've had stories like I was in a store in Madison. The girl came in with her stack of quarters. She was a waitress, and she said, "This is my last payment. I own a new console TV, and my fellow workers gave me a hard time about renting it, but now I own the TV and they don't."
Hey, she made the right decision.
Yep. Yeah.
So, looking at this, I mean, you've done it a long time. You've been a part of APRO for a long time. Now you're saying that you're a part of TRIB. What made you decide to go from one leadership, experience to another? What made you decide to go from the board of APRO to the board of TRIB?
Well, when I hit my 20 years on APRO, people were talking about term limits, so I dropped off. And then the next deal, Bill called me back and wanted me to come back. So I was going to be done at 20 years. And I stayed there for another 12, and started getting a lot of grief when Jill was there about being on 2 boards, that it's a conflict of interest. And I wrote a letter to APRO and the board saying, if I'm on another board and there's an issue that's going to affect, it was always about the split between APRO and TRIB. If there's an issue, I'll just recuse myself from that. That was basically what my letter said. We went through these weeks and weeks and talks and board meetings about getting it done, and that was the final conclusion after that time. So once I told Ed at the time when that issue was brought up, I said, I'll leave right now if that's what you want me to. And I stayed on there a few more years and just decided that I want to get involved. There wasn't much thing going on legislatively with APRO that I wanted to join the buying group and make sure that people are getting best price on product. I've been with Marty, I don't know how many years on the furniture committee. And I know Kathy Windsor, she was I was on there, and then I'm chair of the appliance committee. And it's just fun working with the vendors, trying to get the best price possible for products for dealers to buy.
Well, you're not the first person to say that there was a little bit of friction when Joe was on. Yeah. I think that, regardless of the situation, I always liked Joe McClure, whether she, had a different idea of the way things should be or not. But I can tell you that I definitely liked when Charles came on. Yeah. He has an air about him. He does a really good job with APRO, and he has a really good cohesive spirit, whether it be with TRIB or anybody else who you can get on. He's doing a really good job with that. So, Charles, we think that we've checked you off the box. I think you're doing a good job.
Yeah, he and Dan were here this week in Naples at it was a speaker who was there for 2 days talking about organizations and how they should operate and things. And we had dinner 2 nights in a row, so that was quite enjoy.
Oh, that's nice.
I like Charles well and Dan.
Jeez, man. David didn't even send me an invite. We didn't get an invite, Anthony. That's just how
it happened so quickly. They just called me up, and they were staying here in town. And
that's awesome.
Next time,
we're going to go through a yes, please do. So we're going to go through a little lightning round towards the end of this. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and I'm not looking for like full answers. I'm just looking first thing that comes to your mind, and you tell me what you think. What's one trend in RTO that operators should pay attention to?
Trends that you've got to have a good website and be ready to do a lot of business over the internet.
Be internet savvy. All right. I can live with that.
Pricing, for a long time, we didn't have any pricing on the website. It's important to have your pricing, know what the structure, how much the customer's going to pay us.
Okay. What is one mistake operators still make too often?
I think not working with the customer enough. There's a difference between, I always tell the store manager, there's a difference between the customer that lived in town or been around there for 6 months and somebody's lived there for 20 years. You can give it a little more leniency to that customer and a little more variance and let him go without making a payment or moving the payment up, because you're going to get the money in the long run. And I always use it as a scale. They owe you $40 and there's $1,000 over here. Which one do you want?
You want to get them to ownership. That's what you want to do for sure. All right. Question number 3, best advice for a new RTO store owner.
Building a good culture, making it a friendly place to work, make sure that they're, know their customers, they're friendly with their customers, work with their customers as well as their employees, making their employees feel welcome. One thing that I had to really work at over the years was, my dad was a screamer yeller. His Christmas tree business and labor was seasonal workers, and I had to go from that, yelling at people. He put me in charge of people when I was 15. They were 4 times my age, and I had to tone it down and not be yelling and, just kind of pace yourself and be calm and take care of this. I love to take calls that the stores couldn't deal with the customer and they called me and it's an irate customer. I like to take those hot calls. I just let them talk and listen to them and just say, what can I help you with? What can I do to fix the problem?
You know what? I could see that, right? Right. He's got that kind of tone, like you can just pull it right out of you.
Yeah. So the same thing with, the dealer starting up. You just need to understand the customer, learn your customer, know your employees well, what's going on in their life. Customers are coming in, you get to know their life whether you want to or not.
Yeah. Well, listening is part of it. Yeah. Listening is part of it. So last question, what excites you the most about the future of rent to own?
My son and son-in-law taking over.
Oh, Justin, we're looking at you. I don't know if I met your son. What's your son's name?
James. Michael.
I think I did meet your son, actually. I think I did meet your son now that I think about it. He's been to the last couple of RTO Worlds, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I did meet him, actually. You know what? Very nice young man. Looking forward to see what he does when you finally decide that you're going to take a step back. I can't imagine what that would be. I mean, you've been working so long. I couldn't imagine this world without you, David. I can't. I really just can't. You've been doing everything from APRO to stores to TRIB to RDAs, everything in between.
I don't plan on retiring in the near future. As long as I can get away for a couple months down here, I'm going back Thursday and then go to Vegas market and then come back, and I'll stay here through part of February. But I think future of this business is, the furniture. I think furniture is still really big. Appliances is very big, and you need to concentrate on things. Computers have come back to gaming, but still the staples are the furniture and appliances. We do.
Well, the core systems are here to stay. And listen, I would tell you guys, as always, I always appreciate you guys dialing in and listening to what we have going on. As a listener, you have a chance to listen to David. David today, a legend in RTO. Let me tell you, when I say a legend, nothing happens around this world without David's name being mentioned, including, the Cupid Shuffle. He can do that too. He's a great dancer. And, but he's, I tell you, David, I really appreciate you being on the show with us. If you guys want to hear about what's going on, you guys are welcome to go to the website at the RTO Show Podcast.com. When you go on there, you guys can see the shenanigans we get into. You can get onto the newsletter that we're going to have going on right now. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, where you're going to see this. So make sure you subscribe. David, I really appreciate you being on the show today and talking to us a little bit about how you guys started and all the things that you've been a part of. I'm very taken back by how much you've actually done in the time that you've had, from driving all the way to being on both boards, TRIB and APRO, just being available to everybody, having these, when you give to these foundations, they really need it. To know that you do 3 different foundations is amazing. I love that you still think about what's going on with our quick fire questions. You came with some good answers there. I do appreciate that. And I really appreciate what you do here in the RTO world. So thank you so much. And I'm going to tell you guys, as always, get your collections low to get your sales high. Have a good one.